Brad, we are back on Thompson to Clark, and here I thought we were not going to have much stuff to talk about. We were actually going to lead with Carlos Rodon opts out of his second year with the Giants to become a free agent, and that's like super buried to the at the end of the show now because two things today just came out, and let's hit the first one because I'm really interested because last week we talked about Aaron Judge and the risk, not really the risk, but the years and the money involved in signing someone who's already in his young 30s and how the age of that contract doesn't necessarily it doesn't really, for the end of that contract doesn't look great. We talked about Pujols, even Rendon is hurt now, and we'll see with some of these other guys. Robinson Cano we talked about, and so that could be a reason why the Giants don't go to that level of spending with him. The other thing is that, and we've talked about this over the year, but we didn't really talk about this last week, and that is about Shohei Ohtani, because Ohtani, rather than go into arbitration, I think he had 1 year. He signed a 30-year deal, or a $30 million deal, 1 year for $30 million.
Yeah.
And he was recently in the news for talking about not the most positive about the team, about the Angels. He also was like kind of nice about it, like very, very respected, very respectable guy there. But, he basically said, look, the end of the season was really, really long. And that's him basically saying losing sucks in his own way. And so an article comes out, I don't know, 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago from The Athletic, where they said, what would it take to put together an Ohtani package for his 1 year this year, and then you get to you get to try and sign him, and you get the 1 year to try to work out a deal. Now, I imagine teams will know if he has interest in signing with them after, because he chose the Angels specifically, right? Like there was this, when he was a free agent and he came over here, there was a long red carpet rolled out for him in all of these different cities. The Giants were one of them. We think the Giants finished pretty highly in that discussion, but the Angels went out. And now it's possible that they could try and get a boatload of prospects back for him. I don't know if I want to be the GM who trades Shohei Ohtani. Like, that seems to be a bad mark on your record. But if that trade is out there, this would probably be the most prospect-heavy trade in baseball history, is my guess, because, man, some of the trades that were thrown out there in that Athletic article were wild. Like the Andrew Bagley had the Giants giving up like 4 of their best prospects, and including Luciano, including Harrison. So what is your overall, and it is the off season, so we're kind of making stuff up. This is probably not a problem yet, but kind of foreshadowing what could be. What was your thought when you read that piece today?
Well, Perry Manasian, who is the Angels GM, and the reason this kind of came about is because he's the Angels GM, and he came out today and said, we are not trading Ohtani in the offseason, is what he said. So that kind of opens it up a little bit for the regular season. But, just because somebody says this guy's not available, that doesn't mean anything. If somebody comes with a prospect deal, or any other deal that the GM likes, he's going to go crazy for it. And so, and just a little background on Perry Manasian, who is the Angels GM. He was hired in November of 2020 to a 4-year contract. So 21, 22, and now going into his 3rd year of his 4-year deal. He needs to turn this club around because the Angels are not a winning baseball team. They have not made the playoffs. I know that's frustrating for Angels fans. I know a lot of Angels fans, because being a Rams fan, A lot of Rams fans are either Angels fans or Dodger fans. So I know a lot of Angels fans, and I know they get so excited at the beginning of the season. Everything's, yeah, we're doing this and we're battling, but they're in the AL West. I mean, you've got the Astros, who are now the defending world champs. You've got the Mariners, who are up and coming. So you're in that division fighting. And the Rangers are going to make a push. Now they have Bochy and some great shortstops. Got a lot of really good shortstops in Texas. So, I think it's kind of just smoke and mirrors to say he won't be traded in the offseason. Again, if a deal comes along, he can be had.
Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting, because if you're a fan of baseball, if your team does not have Shohei Ohtani, you want Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
He is a star. I mean, if there's a star in baseball, it's him. I would love to see him in the playoffs. I would love to see him in the World Series. I would love to see how he's managed in the playoffs as a pitcher and a hitter. That would be fantastic. Is he going to hit on the days that he pitches? I hope so, because that bat is tremendous. Batting average dipped a little bit this year, but again, when the whole club is losing, that just happens. But he is an unrestricted free agent in 2024. So 1 year, $30 million deal. This is it. I think he can be had for prospects.
If you're the Giants or any of these teams, right? I think there are a couple things that I try and figure out, and how you do this through tampering, I'm not exactly sure, but I want to know, are we an organization that he wants to spend a long time with? Because if you trade for that 1 year and he's like, peace, I'm out of here. Like, man, talk about throwing your whole farm system out of whack for 1 year of a guy.
Yeah.
I think the reason why he's so valuable when it comes to this trade or this trade idea is because you get that 1 year buffer to bargain with him, to negotiate with him, to sort of figure out, okay, what is the 8 year, 9 year, 10-year deal going to look like? How are we putting this thing together? And you get the whole year to do that. Because if you trade for him, and let's just throw a team out there, let's say Texas, and he's like, well, the amount of money we've spent on all these players, I don't know how much we're going to spend in the future. I'm not in on this. And then you're Texas and you give all these players for him, and you're kind of screwed. So I would want to know, and I think this has got to be part of the calculus. Does he want to play for your organization? Does he want to play in your area? Los Angeles was a yes for him. Is the Bay Area a yes for him? I would imagine so. Is Texas a yes for him? Who knows? Is Seattle a yes for him? Probably, right? Because Ichiro played there. So that would be the first thing that I would look at. The second thing that I would look at is, how likely is it that he re-signs with the team that trades for him? Now, I just said that the team that trades for him probably is going to have to do a lot of just researching and figuring out, talking to his people, talking to his friends, because the Giants could think about it this way and go, well, let's wait for him to hit free agency, and then let's spend the moon to get him and still keep our prospects. So that is a risk because of what I just said about the due diligence some of these other teams are going to do if they did want to trade for him. And yeah, the whole thing is so fascinating. It's hot stove talk. It's why we can do a podcast in November, several days after the World Series is over. The winter meetings haven't begun yet. There's this new draft lottery that's going to happen for the 3 worst teams in baseball or whatever it is to get the top pick there. And our second topic is going to be this whatever the Veterans Committee is now called, the Eras Committee or whatever they called it. And, Barry Bonds is going to be up to possibly be inducted in the Hall of Fame. So there's so many things to talk about. And this is one of them. And I love it because who doesn't want to talk about Shohei? This isn't like, you have other avenues or other sports, and you have guys like Kyrie Irving. Like, that's the part of non-basketball talk that nobody wants to talk about. I don't want to talk about
Right.
Kyrie Irving, right?
No.
Let's talk about Shohei, though. Shohei is fantastic. Shohei should be on the level of a Steph Curry and a LeBron James and a Tom Brady. Well, maybe not Tom Brady right now. Come on, Giselle.
Well, he looked fine against the Rams yesterday in the fourth quarter with 1 minute left. I'll tell you that.
Okay. I don't understand how you lost that game, by the way.
Because we didn't score enough points in the first 59 minutes. That's why our offense is putrid right now. The offensive line is ghastly. Every time we got the ball, I felt like it was just, here comes another 3 and out. So, yeah.
The only reason I'm going to bring this up is because our network of podcasts here, Roderick and I were on We Want Winners yesterday. And I had the Rams game on in the corner. Seattle and Arizona had already finished, and I put the Rams and the Bucks on. And I was like, Brady's, in the red zone, doinks a pass off somebody's face mask. Is that Evans? It was like somebody's face
in
mask.
The end zone.
Yeah,
it's somebody right in the face. Yeah,
and then they can't get it on fourth down.
I think it was actually Godwin.
Okay. So then you guys get the ball back. And then I see Cooper Kupp, I think, on a jet sweep or something. And then he slides and stays in bounds, doesn't stop the clock. And I'm like, okay, this game's over. And so we're doing the podcast. And then it must have been a minute later, I look over and Brady's got the ball again. And I was like, wait, what happened? And then I saw the last scoring play, and I couldn't believe that happened to your poor football team.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting used to it at this point. So, but Sean McVay did say changes will be made next week. I don't know. We'll see.
I hope it's Rivers starting running back because I picked him up.
No, we have another kid, Kyron Williams, who is a fantastic running back, a Steven Jackson type of guy.
So I may have to pick him up.
Yeah, so he was hurt in the first game of the season on special teams, and he's going to be coming back here, and I think everybody kind of wants to see him get plugged in, so it should be exciting. But yeah, Shohei, I mean, I could talk about Shohei all day long. I don't think, and again, being in Anaheim, I know it's a Los Angeles market, but he's in Anaheim and he's playing with the Angels. And for some reason, you've got star power of Trout and Shohei, and he's just not talked about enough. And again, is it the East Coast bias? Is it the West Coast? By the time the games are over, it's 2:00 in the morning on the East Coast. That's why the coverage isn't there. You hear about Shohei the next day, but by then everybody's moved on and ready for the next day's games. But man, if he stays on the West Coast and they don't talk about him, but he's in the orange and black, I don't care. I will not care, man, because he turns 29 in May next year, I think, around May, June, somewhere in there. And so for us to be talking about, yes, all last week, I'd love to have Judge and still, I still would love to have Judge, but if we got Shohei, give him a 10-year deal. I don't care. I mean, the seats he would put in the stands, his ridiculous talent, to watch a guy like that pitch he pitches every sixth or seventh day, is kind of how the Angels are working with him. And then to be able to hit and DH and do everything else that he does. He only stole 11 bases this year, but he is a base stealer. He could steal 20 or 30 now with bigger bases next year. And now with only 2 pickoff moves, we might see he could steal 40 bases possibly. I could talk about the guy all day, man. I would love to see him in the orange and black. I would love to see him in the Giants. Him and Trey Turner, lock him up. And at that point, I'd be fine if we didn't get Judge. He could go somewhere else. It's fine.
That's my next question, which is last week we talked all about Judge, and the San Francisco is all about Aaron Judge right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I didn't think there was an opportunity to trade for Ohtani after he signed, but it just seemed like, okay, his story is gonna be next year. in the offseason. That's where it's right now. It's Judge's time. Next year, it's going to be Ohtani's time. And who would you like if you had to pick? Now we're being greedy because we could get neither. Like both could say, "Sorry, guys, we're going to go back to the Yankees and wherever Shohei goes," because I'm sure the Dodgers will be in on him big time.
Oh yes, yeah.
Who would you rather have?
Who would I rather have? For short term, I think I'd rather have Judge. For long term, we're talking. So let's say 2-year deal. I think I'd rather have Judge. And then you knew after 2 years they were going to walk. They had an opt out. They're going to be somewhere else. Not that Judge or Ohtani is even going to get any kind of deal like that, because nobody is going to give those guys, and they don't need it, a 2-year and then opt out. They're not trying to prove anything at this point. They're not coming off of injuries. But if you're talking long term, if you're talking 8, 9, 10-year deal, give me Shohei all day. I mean, I would take him in a heartbeat if you said 10 years, $350 million. I do it. 10-year, $400 million. Do it. Get him locked up. I mean, the guy is a generational talent. You're not going to see anybody like him in a very, very long time.
I wonder if it takes 5. Could you foresee a baseball team, an organization paying a player $500 million?
Him, I could. I mean, honestly, I could, because you're getting a pitcher and you're getting a 30-plus home run guy. I mean, and he could hit 300. We've seen it. Yeah, I mean, I could see easily he's worth that because he can do the two things. Now, if you said Aaron Judge was getting 500 million, I don't know. I mean, yeah, he can hit home runs and he's a good enough outfielder, and he can hit 300, but he can't pitch. He can't go out there and strike out 15 guys on any given night with what has he got, like 7 pitches? I mean, he's ridiculous. That Shohei is who you build your team around, and the Angels are stupid for not locking him up at this point and saying, instead of the 1-year deal, I don't know why they didn't come in and unless he just didn't want to, unless he said, you can buy out my ARB year. Let's not argue. Let's not do all that stuff. Let's just do that and get it over with, which is most likely what happened. So I think the writing is kind of on the wall that most likely he will not be back in Anaheim. Are they still called the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? No, I think they're just called the Los Angeles Angels, right? Yeah.
Okay, so
that was bad.
Okay, so let's say that is the case. Now the GM just goes public and is like, we're not trading him in the offseason.
Yeah.
Whether or not that is true, I don't. He's just trying to drive up leverage.
Yeah.
I think if you are going to trade him, you do trade him in this offseason because, and this is where the 10 years gets tricky for me, he's a pitcher. He's already had the elbow surgery, right? That affected his ability to pitch. And, we're talking about, Carlos Rodon getting a 2-year deal because there's worries about his longevity as a pitcher. That's where it kind of throws you for a loop a little bit. You're like, yep, 10 years. And you're like, oh, wait, he's going to be in his late 30s. Is he going to be Verlander good in his late 30s or Scherzer good in his late 30s? Sign me up, because those guys are awesome. Or is he going to be DeGrom, where, he's only making 15 starts a year because of injuries? So that, and DeGrom is still like fantastic in those 15 starts, but that's kind of where it gets tricky. And he's a unicorn in that sense because we haven't seen him. Now, if he shuts it down completely, cannot pitch anymore, is his value as an outfielder and a DH the level of a $40 to $50 million contract? It's possible, but that does separate him is the pitching piece. And maybe he becomes John Smoltz at the end of his career, right? Maybe he goes with the bullpen and closes games. So that's also very interesting. But I find the conversation fascinating. Whenever you can talk about a guy like this, he's not going to win the MVP. But if you talk about value to one's team, he's clearly the most valuable player in all of baseball.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, it's just, if you're adding value, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever that he's not. But, at the same time, even as valuable as he is, they still suck. And, they've sucked how many years with having Trout as cumulatively the best baseball players since the 2010s or whatever. So whatever they're doing over there, they're doing it wrong because they can't put together a respectable baseball team. So if you're Ohtani and if you have his people, I'm like, man, they haven't been really good since the early 2000s. Let's change it up here, but it's going to be crazy. It's like big. I can't think of anything to a sport that is bigger than him being available for a trade. Again, LeBron James, Steph Curry, those guys are never going to be traded. They'll never be available for trade. LeBron has changed teams a bunch of different times, but that's in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant, not a free agent. In football, the Christian McCaffrey thing was a big deal, but that was more because of a team who was terrible dumping a player to get, more players who they think that they had the best years of that player's career. So football's a little different.
Football, you have that shorter career span. You have that shorter time span. But you did hit the nail on the head too when you said, about the pitching. Like get what you can for him right now.
Yeah,
because he's not like an Aaron Judge, where Aaron Judge could come back next year and also hit 50 or 60 home runs. Shohei Ohtani gets a tweak in the elbow or whatever. Sure, he could hit 30 home runs, but all of a sudden he's not pitching. He's not striking out 15 guys. He's not your every fifth or sixth day starter. And can I just for a second, can I just imagine what it would be like if Shohei won the MVP this year? I just want to imagine what Yankees fans would do. They would collectively implode is what would happen. I mean, we all know that Judge is going to win it because that Yankees team does not make the playoffs if they don't have Aaron Judge. I wish we could say the same for Ohtani. I mean, he didn't carry the team like that, but also the rest of the Angels were just bad, and Trout was hurt for the majority.
He's been hurt as well. Now, when is he going to be better?
Yeah, hopefully next year. I mean, and then is he going to want out? If Shohei's gone, is he going to say, "What am I doing here? Have we seen Trout in the playoffs yet? I think we did. I think there was one year where they went to Boston, right, to play a 3 of 5 series. But you know what? I think he was hurt. So I'll
look it up.
Yeah, I don't even think he played in the playoffs. But
I'm talking kind of poorly about this dude. I'm like, when is he going to be healthy? Yeah. he still hit 40 bombs this year. Like,
exactly. I mean, he was, but again, he was still hurt. There was a good portion of the year he was hurt. But he's one of those guys again. Now, why? If he hits 40 bombs and Shohei does what he does, why do the Angels not make the playoffs this year? And again, AL West. You've got Seattle that just played otherworldly this year. And then you've got Houston. You're always going to be behind those two teams. Even with an extra wild card, they weren't even in it, but they lost 14 games in a row in September. So
one year
they'll usually take you out of it.
The 1 year Mike Trout played in the postseason was 2014, a very memorable year for us. And the Royals swept the Angels in a 3-0. Trout was 1 for 15, and that one hit was a home run. That's the only time he's had any playoff at-bats.
Okay, so there you go. 15 at-bats in the playoffs for Mike Trout. How many regular season at-bats does he have? I'm going to put you on the spot and make you look that one up.
Well, okay, let's see. He's played 2011 was his first year, so this is like year 12 for him. Let's say 400 at bats. So I'd say 5,000.
probably 5,000 at bats and 15 in the postseason.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous for a talent like that. Free Ohtani, free Trout. Come on, Angels.
It's 5,094 at bats.
Wow.
And 6,159 plate appearances. Mike Trout, up until 2017, he had 4 years in a row of playing 157 games or more. And then 2017, 114, 18, 140, 19, 134. The bubble season, he played 53. Last year, not 22, 21, he only played 36 games.
That's probably the year I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Where he was. How many games last year, 2022?
He played in 119.
Okay. And again, he was banged up. I think he had a thigh injury this year, but it was early on in the season. Man,
this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. Now I'm just looking at this baseball reference page because we're looking this up. Mike Trout has either finished first or second in the MVP voting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in his career. 3-time MVP, wow. And he's finished second twice. That's amazing.
That's absolutely amazing. Jeez. Again, it is a crime that these guys are not in the postseason playing meaningful October baseball. And instead, we're watching, I don't know. I don't want to bash on anybody. Instead, we're watching other players. How about
that? All right. Let's talk about Barry Bonds here. Now, there is something called the Contemporary Baseball Era Players Committee, who voted for 8 players for I think it's a December. When does this vote happen?
December 14th.
Okay, so it's coming soon in the next 4 or 5 weeks. And of the 8 players, Barry Bonds is one of them. Now, this is did this used to be called the Veterans Committee and they just changed the name of it?
I couldn't tell you, man. This should tell you right there that the Hall of Fame is weird. It's just really weird, man.
It is very weird.
It's weird that Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. It's weird that there's a lot of other players that aren't in the Hall of Fame, and it's weird that we have a Hall of Fame contemporary committee. I don't even know what that means, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved in baseball in general. But
yeah.
So what's going to happen is that this committee is going to vote for a 2023 class. And the idea is these players, for one reason or another, did not get selected. Sometimes it has to do with like the olden days of baseball where they're trying to create the whole history of baseball. And, maybe there's some guys who were left out and who should be in. And then in other instances, you're voting in managers, you're voting in broadcasters, you're voting in umpires and all that stuff. And in this scenario, I believe this is like the post 1980 folks. And there's just a bunch of guys who we've mentioned Will Clark before. Will Clark was on this list, and guys who just didn't make it. And so now that they cultivate a 16-member committee. Will vote on December 4th. So it's actually December 4th, not the 14th. And any candidate receiving 12 out of those 16 votes will earn the election. Now, there's some really fun players on this list.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Albert, don't call me Joey Bell, Don Mattingly, Fred McGriff, Dale Murphy, Rafael Palmeiro, and Kurt Schilling. So those 8 were selected out of a much bigger pie of players, and they will get voted on. I was trying to find out who the era committee is because I couldn't figure. Like, I'm assuming they're writers. I know there's a baseball writer who's one of the 11, they call them veteran historians. because my thought is like, okay, well, if this writer's list of 16 is a little on the younger end, then Bonds and Clemens, and maybe not Palmeiro, but Bonds and Clemens specifically have a really good shot. But if this is an older class of writers, I still don't think they're going to get in.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, it takes you to the Hall of Fame website when you click on the Contemporary Baseball Era Players Committee, 1980 to present. But yeah, it's a method of appointment. The Hall of Fame's board of directors shall appoint the committee. There you go. It's very very ominous, but yeah, doesn't say who's on there, but it is a 16-person committee.
Yeah, I couldn't find the list of people on it, so it's hidden somewhere, probably for good reason. They don't want these guys to be yelled at.
Yeah, no, they're going to be hounded right now because you need 12 of 16 votes per person to get in, so you've got to have 12 of the 16. God, I mean, any other time you're looking at this list and you're going, Roger Clemens should be in. Mattingly probably should be in, which, and there's no steroid issue there. Fred the Crime Dog McGriff should be in, probably. Dale Murphy, probably. Again, for the era that he played in, he was one of the most talked about players.
Yeah, when we were younger, I think he was like a 3-time MVP or something like that.
Yeah, that was the guy. I mean, he was the masher. He was the home run guy. Rafael Palmeiro. I mean, he's a dick, but I guess he probably should be in too. If you're talking, these other guys should be in. Curt Schilling's not in, probably because of his politics. I think that's kind of what has kept him out. So a lot of these guys should be in the Hall of Fame already. Is this a committee that's going to make it right? I really don't know. I would imagine one or two of these guys get in. And I can imagine it going the route of Dale Murphy and Don Mattingly, right? Two guys that aren't associated with steroids, just to say, look, we're doing something. There's a reason for this committee. I could also very easily see Bonds getting in. He's probably one of the best baseball players we will ever see in our lifetime. I mean, I know we just talked about Shohei, but Shohei is not Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was different. There's nobody that we're ever going to see that is Barry Bonds material.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird, man. It's one of those complete toss-ups. It can easily go either way.
So Jason Stark from The Athletic, he thinks, and he doesn't predict, but he thinks Fred McGriff kind of fits what this committee is looking for. Somebody who's just overlooked for whatever reason.
Yeah.
He says, he writes, he fell off the writer's ballot after 10 tries in 2019. He never received 40% of the vote in any election. But I've often said that McGriff was the most criminally undersupported candidate of all time, and he might just be the early favorite to get elected by this group of Hall of Fame players, executives, and writer historians. Okay, so there are players involved in this list, and executives and writers. Okay, so that may lean a little bit more towards Barry. But then again, if you're a clean player who made the Hall of Fame, do you want to vote in the guy who took steroids? I don't know. That one's tough too.
That's tough. That's why they got to put in Pete Rose, and then that way, right? Just go ahead. And that's another reason, and that's another one too. I know Pete Rose is banned for life. That's a whole other show. I don't want to get into that. We could do a whole show on Pete Rose.
Yeah, totally.
That's just kind of a mess. But looking at Bonds' percentages in the the years that he was eligible, he started out at just 36% of the vote. So everybody was very angry with him when he first made the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yep.
Then he went down to 34, and we thought, oh crap, he's just going to fall off this thing in the next couple of years. Then he bumped up to 36, 44, 53, 56, 59, 60, 61, and finished at 66%.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're going to take any of that into consideration, because McGriff's numbers never getting above 40%, but Bonds finishing the last 3 years above 60%, is that going to play into that committee, or are they just going to completely ignore those numbers altogether? So that's a question that I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah. So he finishes off by saying, why is McGriff the kind of early favorite to get in? He says he just fits the profile players who get the support of groups like this. A 2-time home run champ who played 19 years, popular teammate everywhere he went, would have reached 500 home runs if not for the strike of 94. And it all seems perfect for this committee. You can just feel the love building in the room for a guy like this.
Right.
So it sounds, he could be one. I kind of like the idea of Mattingly and Murphy getting in, just because, when we're growing up, baseball's bigger than life for us, and they're two of the biggest stars in baseball at that point. 19, you're talking when I first started really, really following, it is 1984, and Mattingly and Dale Murphy are two of the biggest stars in baseball at that point.
Yeah.
Palmeiro, Albert Bell. Albert Bell's just like a disliked guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I said Palmeiro's a dick. How about Albert? Don't call me Joey Bell. That guy was just a huge pain in the butt.
Yeah. And then didn't he like cork his bat, and he's got like tremendous power, and he's still corking his bat?
Oh yeah, he corked his bat. He, almost killed Fernando Vina when he was running towards second base. And then he, I think he threw a ball into the stands and hit somebody in the chest too. There was that time where he refused to step in the box because he didn't like the pitch, the call, and so he just stood outside the box, and the umpire said, "Oh no, that's what it was. He got hit by a pitch, and he stood in the box and said, nope."
I'm not going to first base.
Yeah, go to YouTube, find the Albert Bell refuses to go to first base video. It is absolutely fantastic. They're not going to play. They just said, the umpire said, well, we're not going to play until you go to first base. You got hit. I mean, cleanly you got it. There was no question. And he just said, no, I want this guy. I want to keep hitting.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Yeah. Fun.
Okay. And then what Jason Stark says about Bonds and Clemens is, he says, you don't need George Mitchell to tell you it has never been about whether these two guys had numbers. It's about the other stuff, and still is. Maybe this committee will surprise us and be more willing to overlook those performance-enhancing drug clouds than the writers were. But what's more likely is that the ex-players on this committee will want no part of sharing the podium with Bonds and Clemens anytime soon on a July afternoon in Cooperstown. So something that's kind of interesting, and I would love to see how this plays out. And someone like Jason Stark would be probably the guy to talk about it. Peter Gammon's one of those guys who follow this stuff so closely, which is, if Bonds had 5 more years, as you were reading off those percentages, he could probably get to 75. He just ran out of time. His percentages were growing and growing and growing. And what that has to do with is, more than likely, some of the older writers who were holding him accountable for the steroid stuff falling off, some younger writers coming in going like, yeah, I get it, but he's still one of the best players. We can't keep him out. In 3 years, I think they do this again. And if Bonds and Clemens or anybody on this list don't get in this year, I think there's another vote in 3 years from now. I don't know if the mindset of that group changes much in 3 years, like the writers were, because like exactly what Jason said, what the players, want standing next to them, could be the same. So this may not work the same way, in which, we're like, if Bonds only had a few more years, he gets in. This may not work that way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it may not work that way. If the word is that they're leaning towards McGriff, he's the opposite guy of Barry Bonds. The opposite aura, the opposite, what happened in baseball, and so I think they're kind of almost making a point with that. If they went that route to say, look, here's a guy that should have hit 500 home runs. Here's another guy that hit 700 plus home runs, but shouldn't have hit 700 plus home runs. It's kind of what they would be saying with going with McGriff in that point. But like you said, Bonds was hurt those first 4 years. Under 45% the first 4 years of his voting. I don't know, man. It's so crazy. The Hall of Fame. I think when we were kids, up until probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the Hall of Fame was like the stuff, man. That was when you saw a guy get elected to the Hall of Fame, you go, man, that guy really, it was one of baseball's best. And then you saw the highlights and everything else. Now it just kind of feels like the Hall of Fame is here. It's in our heads. That's our Hall of Fame. We know what Bonds did. We saw what Bonds did on the field. I mean, even before the cloud of steroids, he had Hall of Fame numbers. If you just, let's say he blew out his knee and could never play again before he even took a drop of steroids, you took all those numbers, he's probably still in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he was that good all around of a player. Just Willie Mays type of player, and you don't see those guys come around all the time. So, but I don't know, committees, man, they're gonna they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and they're gonna feel super righteous about it too. And that's
All right, so before we get to the rest of the show, let's talk about what we are drinking here. I've been going first a lot just because I've been so excited to share. But you can go ahead first this time.
All right. So I just went. It's cold, man. It's getting cold.
Wow.
It's getting cold. We got a little bit of snow in the mountains. You can't see it now. Now it's dark because of daylight savings time. My favorite, or whatever it's called. Now daylight savings is gone, or back to regular. I don't even know. So I went with the Lagavulin, the 8-year. It's very smoky, very peaty. One of my favorite scotches. My dad bought this for me for Christmas last year.
Heck yeah,
it is now November. You see where I'm at?
Yeah. Because I like to nurse my there's a time and place for it.
Exactly. And so this is kind of the kickoff to, I know it's still fall, but this is the kickoff to winter.
Only another week, right? Another week for fall?
Yeah, just another week. Yeah. And tomorrow is election day. We have
go out and vote.
Go out and vote. I already
vote already?
I did.
There we go. Yeah, we dropped off our ballots this morning.
Yeah, I liked it. So I did the mail-in, but I walked over to our mailing or to our voting site, which is like 10 minutes away, and I dropped them in and scan them right there. And
there you go.
Yeah, I just do it that way. Kids are out of school tomorrow because it is election day, and in Washoe County, we use so many schools for voting that they just shut down the schools for the day, which is great because the kids are like, it's Friday night again.
Yeah.
And then we have Veterans Day on Friday. So then they go to school Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have a 3-day weekend. So
God, I don't think I have Veterans Day off. Do you have Veterans Day off?
I do. I work for the government. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have Veterans Day.
And if it's on a Wednesday, you get Wednesday off. So you get whatever the actual, so it's November 11th. So whatever the day is, you get that actual day off. So sometimes you go to work Monday, Tuesday, you're off Wednesday, you go to work Thursday, Friday. So yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do. Because I don't know, I'm live slacking my coworkers
there you go.
If we have Friday off, because my wife has it off. She works for a school, and the kids have it off. Now I work from home, so I'll still be here.
Yeah,
but that'd be cool if I had Friday off. Get some
it's kind of
get some MLB The Show action going on.
Exactly. It's a nice day to actually kind of get out. And it is Veterans Day, so we do, we think about the veterans and everything, but we also go out and try to get a hike in or something. Usually the weather is fairly decent, but this week the weather is not fairly decent. It was we had 50-mile-an-hour gusts last night. I had to take so much CBD that
wow.
I still woke up in the middle of the night like 2 or 3 times to
you and my wife, man. You guys got the little anxiety when you guys go to sleep.
I thought the roof was going to come off. It was, it was shaking the house. It was so hardcore. Anytime, and I could sleep like a log through anything without CBD. But if I know the wind is kicking that night, I will get some of that because I like to sleep through all that. But I did not. I woke up probably, I don't know, 5, 6 times. Who
Do you
knows?
do the little sleep thing with your Apple Watch?
I just turn it to sleep mode, and then we have a Sleep Number bed that tracks your sleep that way too.
Okay.
So one or the other. I try to wear my watch as much as I can to bed because I like the heart rate monitor. I'm one of those people that does so much cardio that my sleep heart rate is like 45.
Wow,
It's
that's
very
amazing.
low. It is extremely low. So I love to look at that number in the morning because even when I get up in the morning, I'm like 48, 49 right when I wake up.
That's awesome.
And then it starts to get up. My resting heart rate during the day is like 52 or 53 or something like that. So
if I have a drink, my sleep is going to be affected.
yes.
So last couple days we've gone out and then last night I had a drink just because I was like, I kind of want to drink, but my sleep wasn't affected. My sleep was pretty much okay. So I'm 3 days in a row I'm pushing it, man, with having a drink. So Tuesday through the weekend I won't drink anything. So it'll be back. But yeah, my heart rate, I can tell because my heart rate will be up sleeping wise when I drink.
Yeah. See, now if I have it early enough, I'm usually okay. So this is fine because it's only 5:45 at night. So I'll be good by the time I go to bed. But yeah, if I have a beer and then I go to bed and I'm still feeling that beer, it's not going to be a good night's sleep.
Yeah. Okay. So Ron Swanson was a big Lagavulin guy.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that, like, I've always wondered, I was like, okay, did he get, they sponsored that whiskey, like, for every show he's drinking that whiskey, every single show. Like, what's going on there? Did he have a piece of that?
I'm not sure, but remember the end of the series, he got a share in the company and actually owned part of the company. And he was in front of I guess they gave it to him as a gift when he retired.
Yeah, that was, Leslie's whole, like, she sent him on a goose chase for the end of the show.
Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I feel like, because I love that show, and I literally did not watch it until 2022.
Okay.
I'd never seen it before. And Crystal was like, we're going to watch this show. We had done The Office. Like I hadn't seen all of The Office, but we went back through The Office, and then she wanted to watch Parks and Rec. And I was like, okay, let's watch Parks and Rec. We're probably going to do, now we're doing How I Met Your Mother. And then next, after How I Met Your Mother, we'll do Community. But How I Met Your Mother's like 9 seasons with like 700 episodes each season. I'm like, how do you guys do that? Like, what? Like, holy cow.
And you're going to love Community as well. That is eclectic, weird, fantastic. Yes.
But yeah, so I need to get I need to get the same whiskey that your dad got you, because just for, like, that's cool. Like, to be on that TV show.
Oh,
and just that's the only thing he would drink.
Is cool too.
Yeah, so I need to get me some. All right, so
it's very good. It's, if you like smoky, peaty whiskeys, it's, man, it is so good.
Okay, so everyone's been seeing my highball glass here. I hadn't had this in a while. It's been sitting in the drawer. Jameson's stout flavored whiskey, and I, like, last year and the year before, and really the year before when we were in the pandemic season, for like a 1:00 football game, I would have a highball with the either the stout or the IPA flavored Jameson. I was doing that, that was kind of fun to do during watching a game. Niners were kind of bad in 2020, so that helped. But I hadn't had this in a while, and I was like, I was going to go Terramana. I still have that ginger beer. I was going to go Mule. And then I was like, oh, I still have a little bit of this stout left. So I decided to do the stout whiskey with the seltzer water and a little bit of lemon juice. And I'm feeling like it's Sunday, 1:00. and the Niners are losing to the Cardinals for no reason whatsoever. That's how I feel right now. So
yeah, and like yesterday with the Rams game, we got to the fourth quarter, and I was like, I'm cracking a beer. I don't care. I mean, the sun's going down. Time has changed. It was a harrowing fourth quarter, and I needed to have one at that point. So yeah.
All right, I did get a message. Do we have Friday off? Nope.
Nope. Oh man, you need a government job.
Yeah. Unfortunately. All right, let's talk about the last two topics that we are talking about here. Actually, kind of 2.5. We'll get through this quickly though. We're already 50 minutes in. We got to see one Dusty Baker finally win a World Series. I didn't know that Game 6 was not just a Giants thing. There was a Game 6 in 2003 when he left the Giants and he went to the Cubs.
Yeah.
The Steve Bartman game was Game 6 for Dusty Baker. I didn't realize that.
I had forgotten that was Game 6 until you sent me that link yesterday, and I thought, man, he went back to the Giants days, and then I started thinking about some of his other games, and I go, oh man, it's been rough.
Yeah, you know who else was relieved that Dusty won? None other than Russ Ortiz. 2002, Russ Ortiz, starting pitcher. Giants are what are we up 5-0 in Game 6?
Yeah.
Dusty takes out Russ, gives Russ the baseball, and all hell breaks loose. The baseball gods were like, "Don't you dare do that, Dusty."
Yeah.
And Dusty,
do you think if I'm just wondering if he could go back in time, would he have left him in? Or not even just left him in, maybe just not giving him the game ball.
Dusty's like, man, I smoke with Jimi Hendrix. I can do whatever I want.
That's true.
And
when you hang with Hendrix, man, you can,
and so he was Game 6 was haunting him a little bit. And so we go to Game 6 and the Astros beat the Phillies there. They beat him 3 games in a row because we were talking about it on Tuesday. And I was saying, I think Philly takes 2 out of 3. And then I think the Astros close out at home. But Philly only took 1 game. They even got no hit in the next game, which was kind of crazy because we hadn't seen a no hitter in the World Series since Don Larson. And that's like World Series lore as we're growing up. Every book about the history of baseball has that story of the Don Larson perfect game in the World Series. So it's kind of cool to see, but I don't think that no hitter was exactly like Don Larson's was thinking about it, going like, I'm throwing 130 pitches no matter what. And it's like, nope, we're gonna throw 3 other relievers at you to get this.
That's how you get no hitters nowadays. You don't get a guy throwing a no hitter so much anymore. Because even if a guy's got a no hitter going to the 9th inning and he's throwing 100 pitches, everybody goes, oh my God, he's throwing 100 pitches.
Yeah.
How is he going to throw a no hitter at this point? You got to take him out. It's like, guys, Don Larson throw till his arm fell off. Back then you're going to throw a no hitter.
When Lincecum threw one of those no hitters, I think he was in the 140s with pitches.
Yeah.
And like his next 3 starts, he was just terrible.
Yeah, exactly. But he got the no hitter.
No-hitter.
Again, because you tag that on your resume when you're a former pitcher and you're just toiling around. Yeah, you got 3 World Series rings, but you also got a couple of no hitters, which is, and a couple of Cy Youngs too. So that's some good stuff. Speaking of Hall of Fame, let's not go there.
All right. So very happy for Dusty. Was glad to see it. The pulling for the underdog in that series was fun, right?
Oh yeah.
When you stack those teams up together, you're like, okay, it's pretty clear that the Astros are better. They could roll out those arms in 7, 8, and 9, and man, that was tough. And it's not like the Phillies didn't fight back. I think it was Game 5. They were right there, and it just didn't happen for them. It was good to see Bryce Harper back on that stage, or just in the playoffs. I thought he had a really cool playoffs for him. Ultimately, I think it comes down to Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, who are really good starting pitchers, they just weren't as I don't even know what the word is, but Verlander didn't pitch great. Like he barely got through that second game. I think through 5 or whatever, but they just didn't have the arms. I think made the big difference. Jeremy Pena won the MVP. It's so funny because a lot of these guys who were big on the Astros and on the Phillies, like the reason why I know them well is because of MLB The Show. Like they had like all these different cards from all these guys. Like, oh
yeah.
I feel like I know this guy like really well, even though he didn't play for my baseball team. So it was cool.
Like Zach Eflin.
Exactly. Framber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jose Alvarado. I feel like I had 7 cards of Jose Alvarado. But no, the World Series, I think the right team won. Maybe it wasn't as sexy of a World Series as probably Major League Baseball wanted. I know the ratings weren't fantastic, but it's Houston and Philly. Philly was back a little bit, and it was kind of cool seeing those baby blue uniforms rolling out there, because that's when we were growing up. That's what the uniforms were.
That was the Michael Jack Schmidt uniform, man. I mean and they were up 2-1. And when last time we did the show was Tuesday night last week because of Halloween, and we sat there going, and I said they're going to go back to Houston probably up 3-2. It flip-flopped. They were down 3-2 and then only took 1 game, and that was it. But like you said, I mean, it's good for Major League Baseball too, because you were saying last week that we were going to get to see hopefully a series, World Series game on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And then possibly a Sunday night. We got a Saturday night game, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I've finally gotten back into hockey. So I was watching, I am now a Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you. Who are you rooting for?
So I'm a Vegas Golden Knights fan because they are in our state and we go down to Vegas often. So, it's fun. It's just fun to watch a team. I never became a Sharks fan. I was always a Montreal Canadiens fan when I was a kid, but trying to watch East Coast hockey in the Bay Area growing up in the 90s and 80s, you couldn't do it. So now that Vegas Golden Knights are part of our DirecTV package and they're in our state, and they're on an East Coast swing right now. So all their games are at 4:00 right now. So it was like, I get to watch those, and then the breaks between periods are about 17 minutes. So you set a timer on the watch, hop over the game for 17 minutes. I gotta watch baseball, then I come back over here. And then when that ended, I got to switch over to San Jose State. So Saturday night was a really fun night for sports. Lots of stuff going on.
San Jose State won.
They did, and they're going to be on Fox Sports 1 at 7:45 this coming Saturday night also. So they're starting to get some big games.
What are they, like 6-3?
I believe so. Yeah, so they're 6-3, but they did lose to Fresno, and they're tied with Fresno for that. Actually, I think they're 6-2. They're tied with Fresno in their division for the top, but Fresno has the tiebreaker. But they are now bowl eligible with that 6th win. So if they could just get one more win, I think they kind of are a bowl lock at that point. A fun team to watch. They're a really good defensive team, and when they get rolling with the run game, man, they are a lot of fun to watch.
You're right. They are 6-2, second in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
Let's get them in the Pac-10, man.
I know. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Pac-12, right?
Pac-12. Well,
and then make it.
if USC and UCLA are leaving, right?
Grab San Jose State and Fresno State. You got to have the rivals come over.
Bring them in.
Yeah.
They'll play Stanford and Cal.
Oh, well, they play Stanford pretty much every year. Yeah. Well, they used to. They haven't done that in a long time. But San Jose State against Stanford, Cal. I mean, that would be great. And then maybe their recruiting would jump up just a touch.
Yeah.
Coach Brennan has just done an awesome job with the team. So huge shout out.
When we were in college, now remind me, were you gone at this point? But do you remember the Heisman Trophy campaign for Deontay Whitaker?
I do. And I think I was there. What year would that have been?
I don't remember. It was either my junior. If it was my junior year, you were there. But it feels
'Cause
my senior year, you were gone.
I graduated in December of '98, but I did stick around for like another year doing radio
radio.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, okay, maybe you were around. But yeah, it would have been either my junior or my senior year, so 98
Yeah.
or 99. But yeah, I remember there was a Heisman campaign, and rest in peace, Lawrence Fan. But Lawrence
Yeah.
Fan was kind of in charge of that whole thing, and that was fun. And they sucked, and he was bad, but
Yeah.
it didn't work out. But it's the first Heisman campaign that we got to deal with it. But now the team's actually pretty good, so I really owe it to myself to see if I can see them play live. I haven't been back to a San Jose State game. It's probably been like 5 years.
Well, let's see if Saturday night at 7:45. Let's see if you're going. I don't remember if it's at home. I believe it's at home.
It might rain though. If it rains, I'm out.
Oh, you tough it out. Nope, it's at Maverick Stadium.
So
they play Utah State, so they're in Utah.
So are they going to remake that New Mexico State game that they had postponed because of the young kid?
I believe they are. Or you know what? They may not be able to. In college football, it's really hard to make up games, so I'm not sure if they're going to get that chance.
Okay, here's the game. November 26th. So that's the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Against Hawaii on a Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. There you go.
12:30 p.m.
Perfect.
That's the game. That's the game I got to go to.
Nice. And usually those games are on TV too. A lot of times. And they used to play Fresno State on Thanksgiving weekend. And see, I see that's the whole problem too that I have with the Mount West right now is that they just are not being consistent, because that would kind of set up that you knew every Thanksgiving weekend, San Jose State and Fresno State were playing. Big rivalry, could mean a lot on the line. And that could have been the game right there that would decide the division. But that's already been played 3 weeks ago at this point. So
here's a question. Could we pull off a San Jose State sports podcast? I mean, you're like upper tier alumni when it comes to San Jose State broadcasting.
There are a couple other guys too out there on Twitter who are doing their thing. Justin Allegari is one of them.
I need to follow him.
We could probably do that with like 4 people, I bet. Because Allegari, I think, is still doing San Jose State stuff. Yeah, we could probably pull it off. I don't know if we could do every sport, but we could probably do like baseball, football, and basketball, right?
Justin Allegari, broadcaster for San Jose State Spartans, voice on PlayStation's MLB The Show.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So there's the radio portion of MLB The Show. It was a few years ago. I think they've gotten rid of it because they brought in that other guy. Now they do the video portion of it where, he'll talk to Griffey and stuff like that. But Justin was the voice of the radio updates that you heard in the background when you were doing the Road to the Show player, and you were in the locker room.
Okay.
And all of a sudden this voice would start going. Yeah. So that was a few years back.
Okay. So here's another question for you.
Yes.
On a Giants podcast, he does do San Jose Giants, right? Or he did?
He did. I'm trying to think of who does San Jose Giants right now.
Well, I mean, Rizzo does
Rizzo
does everything for San Jose Giants, but like I think we can shoehorn him in to come on with us. Like he's got a Giants background, and we can talk San Jose State. I hope people don't like unsubscribe because there's too much San Jose State, but that would be really fun.
I think that would be a blast because I guarantee you there's a lot of our listeners that went to San Jose State and are familiar with San Jose State because they live in the Bay Area. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to try and make that happen. Brad may have to make that contact. All right.
I will do that.
Another news piece. We kind of mentioned it. I think this was expected. Carlos Rodon opts out of that second year. He had a player's option, and he is a free agent. I don't imagine he's coming back. I would love to see him come back. we were talking in text with Brian, and JJ doesn't text us back anymore because he's a senior in college.
Yeah, he's a big timer, man. He's big timing us. That's fine. That's fine.
But you had thought that, Rodon could see some big dollars. And my thought is, I'd be really surprised if a team signs him to more than 3 years. Like signing the 2-year deal with the Giants last year, that was a safety thing because these teams wanted to see him go out there and throw for a whole season. He proved himself and more, right? He is deserving of a 5-year deal. Like this guy's deserving of a 5-year, $100 million deal, or 100 million or more. But I still wonder if it is better for him to sign a shorter deal for more money rather than a longer deal for less money. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I don't care where he goes as long as it's not the Dodgers. He could even go to the Padres for all I care. I just don't want to see him in the Dodger uniform.
Yeah. And it comes down to it. Everybody's different. So there's no template. There's no formula. Some guys like to know where they're going to be for the next 5 or 6 years. They want to be comfortable. They want to know where they're going to be. He did have a little bit to prove this year. So I'm sure that 2-year deal with the Giants with a 1-year opt-out was ideal for him at this point of his career. Now I'm sure he would love to have some sort of stability. Again, if it were me, that's what I would like.
Yeah.
I'm not a move around type of person. Again, I'm also not in the major leagues, and I'm also not striking out 200 people a year. So I can only speak from my perspective. If I was moving jobs, I don't think I would want to be in this city and then the next year a different city, and then the year after that a different city. I like establishment. I like to be settled in what it is that I'm doing. Look at this. I'm getting more political calls. I got to turn this stuff off, man. This is just nonsense, nonstop. So I would think at this point of his career, he's got his wife, he's got his kids. They probably want to settle down somewhere for 5 to 7 years. Mm-hmm. Kids go through school, all of that, not have the interruptions. So I could see him probably at this point of his life taking a 5-year deal. Is it going to be with the Giants? We do not give 5-year deals to pitchers. It is probably not going to be with the Giants. I was watching Intentional Talk today or yesterday. I can't remember. No, it was today. Yonder Alonso, who's on there, he said the Rangers are where he thinks he's going to land. I've heard that a couple times before too. So he isn't the first to say the Rangers. Bochy is there. They really need starting pitching. They've got an offense, but they need that starting pitching. They also, talk about identical. So we think the Rangers spent so much money last year and the Giants just, spent some money and they have more money to spend. Check this out. Giants payroll in 2022 was $168 million. Rangers was $164 million.
What?
The Rangers were $4 million less than us.
How?
in payroll. This coming year, with everybody off the books at this point, again, I don't know how Spot Track calculates it, but right now, going into as of today, Giants payroll is $82 million. Rangers payroll is $92 million because more money has come off the books. So both teams could make a push for Rodon. But again, I don't think the Giants are going to give that 5 years. Will they offer him a 3-year deal? Maybe. They might offer him a 3-year deal. And at that point, he could say, all right, then I'll be in San Francisco for 4 straight years. I don't have to move. My kids can get 3 more years of school in the same place they were last year. That could happen. I don't see it, though. I see him wanting to kind of get somewhere. I've also heard Twitter rumors. I love Twitter rumors.
Do you really love Twitter rumors in the era of Elon Musk, though?
I hate Elon Musk. I hate political rumors. I love Twitter baseball rumors. I love Twitter football rumors. Give those to me all day long because it always gives us something to go, oh, that could be a possibility. And then we start playing with it in our heads and going, how can we make that work like this to get Shohei Ohtani? Can we give up these guys to get Shohei? I love the baseball rumors. Any other rumors? I don't want them. But Angels, Braves, Phillies. I mean, Phillies could use them, right? We just talked about you've got Nola, you got Wheeler, and then you throw Rodon in there, and you've got that three-headed monster. Because Nola, I think, just exercised his options to stay, so he's actually going to be staying with the Phillies next year. And then the other name that popped up is the White Sox, which is the team that he left to come to the Giants. But the White Sox, I don't believe at this point have a manager, right? They still don't have a manager in place.
Yeah, I mean, lack of Tony La Russa is probably a plus at this point, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, you're going to get anybody else in there. I did hear. There's another fun Twitter rumor, though. I did hear when they were talking about managers for the White Sox, they were talking about possibly interviewing Ozzie Guillen. That would be crazy. You bring that guy back to the White Sox. I don't know. So, yeah,
there you go. Okay, last thing, and this is going to be short. This is already one of our longer podcasts, and we talked about like having nothing to talk about, but didn't happen.
We always have something to talk about.
Tomorrow, or actually probably tonight at midnight, the Willie Mays documentary is out on HBO Max. So, do you think you'll have time this week to watch the documentary?
I do. I told you I just dove into Andor.
Yes.
This past weekend, I got super. I was playing the show Saturday morning, and I started to get a little bored because I mean we're now in November.
Yeah, this is we're essentially at the end of the games.
And we've been playing since March now, right? April, something like that. So I got a little bored. So I was like, well, let me throw on Disney Plus because so many good Star Wars stuff on there and so much good Marvel stuff. So I'm flipping around and go Andor. I haven't started Andor yet. And if you like Rogue One, and if you think Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars movies,
it's awesome.
Yeah, then you're gonna absolutely love Andor. It is adult Star Wars. It is very dialogue and story driven. I think in the first 2 episodes alone, there were maybe 2 blasters fired, and that was it. I mean, we're not talking wars. We're talking. This is a build up to why Andor hates the Imperials, hates the growing republic that became Imperials. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but yes. So it is a 3-day weekend. What I like to do is I get up earlier than anybody in the house. I sit in front of the 4K TV we have in the house. I put on the headphones. I lock it into the TV with Bluetooth, and I'll watch shows in the morning. So yes, this 3-day weekend coming up, I will absolutely make time. Bob Costas is on it. Colin Hanks is part of it. There's a lot of Giants historians that are a part of this. Willie Mays' son, Michael Mays, has a lot to do with this as well. So it's very well put together. Willie Mays is now 91. He's had a lot to say in his life. And so they're going to use a lot of those stories and then also kind of show a lot of probably clips we've never seen before. So I'm very, very much looking forward to it. When I watched the trailer, I got so excited because, again, growing up in my house, you heard that name a lot. I never got to see him play. I was born in 73. He retired in 73. But my grandmother, that's all she talked about. She had season tickets to the Giants. And when we would go to games, that's all she would talk about. And it would be Willie Mays Day, and we would get the Willie Mays poster and all this stuff. So, I pretty much grew up as he is the Giant. I mean, Barry Bonds, great generational talent, like we talked about earlier, but Willie Mays is Willie Mays. Willie Mays is the original. You can't beat him. And I'm so looking forward to seeing what this documentary is all about.
I will say, and we'll get out of here right now, but Hank Aaron celebrated very much so. Rightful, he deserves all the kudos he got for being who he was and dealing with what he did. Babe Ruth, the mystique, the legend. I'm not going to discount what that guy did, even though he didn't play against African Americans, but still,
right,
the first real rock star in baseball history. I still feel like Willie Mays, as much as people say that he was the best player that they ever saw, he still falls below both of those guys when it comes to fame, when it comes to stuff
Yeah.
like documentaries, when it comes to baseball history. So I'm so happy that he gets his due on this documentary. Even happier that he gets to see this being 91 years old, like you said, right? Like
Yeah.
he hasn't passed away. Unfortunately, Hank passed away last year. Gosh, that was a big thing. And then, the Braves go out and win the World Series. That was sort of poetic in that way. I'm so happy that they're doing this for him. HBO Max, HBO's great with this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna make a point to watch it this week. I know you're gonna watch it this week. We're gonna have a review next week on this show about that documentary.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Let's get out of here, man. We talked about San Jose State. We talked about the hot stove. We talked about
maybe we should call each other more during the week so we can just talk about other stuff. So then when we come on the show, we can just talk about the Giants. Now.
That's it's great because I love talking about San Jose State. They're doing well. So let's just live it up. All right, we're gonna get out of here, but we'll be back next week. Like I said, we're gonna talk about that documentary. So hopefully everyone watch it. It's on HBO Max. It's gonna be fan. I just know it's gonna be really good. HBO doesn't miss when it comes to this stuff.
Just watching the trailer. Just watch the trailer. Go to YouTube, everybody. Watch the trailer, and you'll get super excited. And then if you don't have HBO Max, maybe they have a free preview for 7 days. That's how I watched Spider-Man No Way Home this weekend. We got Stars free for 7 days. Watched it, canceled it.
There you go.
Do that with HBO Max.
All right. We will see you next week. So for Brad.
Yes.
I am Double G. We'll see when we see you. Peace out.
Go vote.
Peace.